Well, welcome everybody to this public meeting regarding the right-of-way landscape plan in the Saguaro and Cholla districts. My name is Javier Gurola with Transportation. I'm the manager for streets maintenance and right-of-way landscape maintenance and graffiti abatement as well, in case I always have to add that one. So let me introduce our team. Parab Atabala, right over there. He's our transportation deputy director. We have Megan Sheldon over there in the corner. She's with Water Services. So if you have any water-related questions, drought management questions, stuff like that, she's here to help answer those questions. And then signing you in today was Patrick Sage over there with our transportation group as well. So just to let everybody know, this meeting is being recorded by our fine staff over there with communications. And so without further ado, let's get started. So the plan objectives, I'm going to go ahead and, I know when you're doing presentations, you're not supposed to read from the slide, but I'm going to read just for the benefit of the people who are watching this recording. So the plan objectives is to maintain long-term sustainable landscape infrastructure, and we'll go over what that means. The second bullet says is we're also trying to strike a balance between water conservation and aesthetic appeal. So not just putting a bunch of vegetation out there that looks like dried up sticks and boring vegetation. We are actually going out of our way to plant as verdantly as possible vegetation that does comply with an association that Glendale does belong to. It's called the Arizona Municipal Water Users Association, and they have a list of drought tolerant plants and vegetation, plant material that we use along our right-of-ways and you see commonly planted throughout our sister cities throughout the valley. So here's a right-of-way maintenance map. All these green lines represent, and I know maybe you can't see it very well, but take my word for it, they represent areas that we maintain that it's developed right-of-way. So basically what that means is there is some sort of ground cover, either in the form of rock, vegetation, some boulder material, some big, larger rocks, trees, shrubs, and that sort of thing. So, and we have about what that costs to maintain per year. We're right at about 2.9 million. And we also maintain undeveloped right-of-way. So essentially, these red lines that you see all over throughout the city, basically weed and trash free. So no vegetation on it, but also to mitigate dust, a lot of these areas do have at least some kind of rock cover as well. And then ongoing landscape restoration, we're right at about close to $500,000. That's what we need to catch up, to basically fill in the gaps of the maintained, developed right-of-way areas. The total right-of-way budget is right at about $3.6 million. So here's our fiscal year 2024 citywide right-of-way program. Our fiscal year, just as a reminder, every year in, year out goes from July 1st of every year. So that's when it starts. That's our new year for the city. And then it goes to June 30th of the following year. And so you can see, let's see, maybe you can see this little laser there in the Cholla district. This is what the board over here refers to the grass median concept, is what that little stretch is. So that is 67th Avenue from Union Hills to Beardsley. And then in the Saguaro district, this blue line over here, which is number 3, that is a brand new complete landscape install. So essentially, if you can imagine this existing condition with nothing in it, and we're going to turn it into something that looks like this over here. So that is for the Cholla and Saguaro districts. Now, there may be other stuff. We're always in the hunt for grant funding, other types of sources for financing some of this stuff. So there may be more stuff. on top of this that may happen by the end of the fiscal year. But we don't have that yet, so I can't show it to you because we don't have it. So here's a detail of the Saguaro District, just showing the Saguaro District, that road I was telling you about, 51st Avenue from Cactus to T-Bird, that complete landscape install. And then to the Choi District, 67th Avenue from Union Hills to Beardsley, that median turf conversion project. Okay, moving right along, trees in the right-of-way. Citywide, we have approximately 22,000 existing tree sites. Basically what that means is that doesn't mean we have 22,000 trees necessarily. What it really means is we have areas, we have spaces that have been identified where a tree can go in. And a lot of those are populated, do have a tree in them right there. And so 22,000 of those. So of those 22,000 sites or specific spaces, 4,000 of them are missing. So they're either not there, or they died, or the wind knocked them down during a storm. And so that is what we're trying to replace with this landscape plan. So specifically for the Saguaro District, a little over 10,000 trees have been identified. Oh, I'm sorry, oh geez. I must have saw a comma there. Sorry about that. A little over 1,000 trees have been identified in 2024 as of now. So that number obviously may fluctuate because, again, we may have another storm or the tree may die. So right about 1,000. And for the Choi District, currently 440 trees that need to be replaced. And as it says down here, it does not include undeveloped right-of-way, so those red lines that I showed you earlier. So some of the considerations, again, I've already hinted at this, the use of native drought-tolerant plants, decorative rock, so the decomposed granite or some sort of other rock to provide cover and dust control, artificial turf at select locations, balanced tree planting, shrubs, and ground cover, and that kind of alludes to our new standard here that you'll see shortly. Maximize tree canopy in the city, so plant trees that are going to grow as big as possible and provide shade for anything that's underneath it. Maximize the opportunity to conserve water, so water harvesting features include things like little wallows, little like swales, depressed areas where water can collect and naturally water the vegetation. And along with that, smart irrigation systems. So controllers that allow us to better control the rate of water application. Site restrictions, so again, if it's a narrow area, maybe we can't plant too much vegetation on there. Maybe we could only do one shrub or maybe one little skinny tree and so forth. So some site restrictions that we have to keep in mind. And then obviously the ease of maintenance. So the more you have to maintain it, basically the more you're burning money to pay for that. So you want to maintain it as efficiently and effectively as possible. So here's an example, one of our drought-tolerant trees, a lot of the commonly ones that you see around the city. This gray-looking tree, which is called the mulga acacia or acacia mulga, the Chinese pistache, again, a very nice round leafy canopy, and all of these are very drought-tolerant, do very well in the valley. Southern live oak, I personally have one growing in my yard, and in less than 20 years, it's huge. And I don't water it a whole lot either. It's just kind of taps in there and does its thing. Desert willow, this is a native that grows out here in the Sonoran Desert. Very beautiful when it blooms, anywhere from a really light pink to a real dark purple. They have a lot of these that are growing in front of along the west gate frontage along Glendale on the south side, if you ever get a chance. The Catalpa, which is that's a hybrid between the desert willow and another associated species in that family of plants. And then the acacia willow, again, which I guess you can't really see very well here with this lighting, so I apologize. But if any, afterwards you can come up and I can show you, I can blow it up for you and you can see it here up close and personally. And then moving right along, our shrubs, some of the more commonly used ones that we use in our right-of-way. The gold lantana, oh, here we go. Thank you, Patrick. That's much better. The gold lantana, which a lot of you I know you're familiar with, they sell this shrub at Home Depot and Lowe's everywhere. Occasionally you see it at Walmart. And then the Mexican bird of paradise, essentially a year-round bloomer with orangey red flowers, or reddish orange flowers, I should say. And then the green cloud sage, it's a member of the Texas sage plants of species that grow in West Texas. And then you have the dwarf oleander. Again, pretty much blooms year-round and doesn't need that much water, so that's always a plus. And the bougainvillea, again, a year-round bloomer as well. Ground cover, so this is stuff that's probably about maybe 2 feet, 2 feet or less off the ground. The Cadia ruella. And another thing I should mention, that a lot of these plants are really good pollination plants for bees, which really need our help these days. So I'm going to just plug in a little conservation thing there. So if you like bees, a lot of these plants will take advantage of their pollinators. Trailing gazania, very beautiful, fragrant yellow flower. Trailing lantana, which is a relative of the gold lantana, but this one does not get as big. And then Dahlia gregii, which is it's actually a legume, so it's in the bean and pea family. And then you have a golden barrel cactus, which I know everybody has seen around here. But really it can mean any cactus that does well, like your other species of barrel cactus, your red barrels, your hedgehog cacti, plants like that. So all of those qualify as very drought tolerant ground cover. So moving right along. So here is an example of an existing condition, whether it's developed or it's a brand new install. This is a hypothetical strip of arterial. In this case, it's 51st Avenue. And so when you add decorative rock, whether it's little bits of gravel, decomposed granite, and then larger size cobbles and boulders, and then drought tolerant vegetation. Those are actually Texas laurels. Again, beautiful flowers, purpley. Another member of the bean and pea family, sorry. So we add trees, you add shrubs, you add water harvesting features, you add smart irrigation systems, and you get our concept of what we're trying to accomplish. And again, I'm just going to go ahead and give you a little preview here. So these trees shall be spaced about 30 feet apart, 30 feet apart from each other minimally. And then 3 shrubs, combination shrub, cacti, ground cover between the trees. And then all the associated rock and gravel. So here's our grass medians concept. So this is what we're trying to accomplish along 67th Avenue between Union Hills and Beardsley. So you remove the natural turf, you install artificial turf at the bull noses, basically at the ends of the medians. You plant additional trees if there's 1 or 2 that are dead, so you replace those. Again, 30 feet apart. You plant 3 shrubs, 1, 2, 3, and then so forth. 1, 2, 3. I guess we put 4 there, but anyway, again, you have to, it's something that we're trying to move towards, but there may be room for an exception or 2 every once in a while. And then install decorative rock, like I said, for dust control. So decomposed granite, gravel, and such. So that is our grass medians concept. So water use, this is where we really start to talk about the benefits of this landscape plan. So right now, the city, excuse me, the city is consuming approximately 445.2 acre feet of water. That equates to about 145 million gallons of water. So if we were just planting willy-nilly, you know, maybe 4, 5, 6, 7 shrubs per tree between the trees and a lot more trees, we'd be utilizing a lot more water, obviously. So right at about 500, almost 560 acre feet of water, which equates to just a little over 181 million gallons of water. So with this plan, with the Xeriscape plan, which is what our right-of-way landscape plan is, what we're calling it, we are going to consume no more, no less, right around that number right there, which is right at about 334 acre feet of water. So right at about 109-ish million gallons of water. So we're saving, you know, 111 acre feet of water per year, which is, I think it's like 37 million gallons of water. So, you know, it's our part in trying to, you know, help the city with conserving water and essentially giving it back to our residents. So you can use it to cook with, bathe in it, and, you know, whatever residents do with water. So our new standard, again, drought-tolerant trees every 30 feet, 3 drought-tolerant shrubs, ground cover cacti in between the trees, and again, that is what we're aiming for. Water harvesting features, smart irrigation systems, decorative rock color and size. So again, if there's maybe an architectural standard that we're asked to comply with, or just to maintain the aesthetic of the area, that rock will change, could change. And we're doing our part to be water wise, water responsible for the city water crisis. You know, all about the Colorado River and any subsequent crisis that will inevitably arise, you know, as we move forward. So with that, I will leave it, I will invite Parab up here. Megan, you're welcome to come up here if you want, or you can stay back there. But we'll be happy to entertain any questions at this time. And since it's being recorded, just let me know and I'll bring the mic to you. Yes, sir.
I've got a couple of questions. Sure. First of all, so is the city the ones that are going to be planting the trees and shrubs, or are you subcontracting that out to somebody else?
Yes, it's contracted work. Okay. Yes, I mean there are exceptions. You know, we do have our own staff. It's only 12 for the whole city, so there are times where there'll be little onesies and twosies, little localized areas where they go plant it themselves. But by and large, if it's a really huge area, if it's like a mile-long area, the contractors have the, they have not only the expertise, but they have the equipment to move large amounts of material. So the answer is yes.
Okay. And the second one is, could I get a copy of that right-of-way map?
Yeah, I don't see why not. So, okay. Well,
there seems to be a discussion with Mr. Malnar as far as what is my property and what is right-of-way property. And in my subdivision, I've had trees that are in the city of Glendale's right-of-way fall into our fence, not mine personally, but down that subdivision, knock over parts of the fence, and the city says they're not responsible for replacing the fence or fixing the fence. So we've had that happen several times, and plus the landscaping down that right-of-way basically sucks.
Okay. Thank you for your comment. Let's see, did you want to address that one?
Yes. So the The map was already, it's already posted, it's public information, but we will share that. The specific details of right-of-way lines and in some instances, there might be trees in the right-of-way that adjacent property owners might be responsible, like an HOA might be responsible. So there could be instances, but we'll share the map.
So how do I find out where the city begins and my property begins?
Sure. So I'll give you an example of where I live. I'm on a local street. So behind the sidewalk, basically everything I maintain. Some of it might be in the city right of way, but there's a city ordinance that says that you're responsible for the frontage behind side.
And I can tell you basically where I live. So I'm between the fire station and 64th, backing up to Union Hills. Sorry about that.
So before we go into that, we can discuss your specific location because there'll be a lot of details that could change the answer.
Okay.
But you feel free to share.
Yeah, so I'm between the fire station and 64th Avenue. I back up to Union Hills, and really the discussion as to what is right-of-way, that sidewalk down through there meanders back and forth. So in my mind, the closest to the fence is City of Glendale. Otherwise, I asked, why did you put that fence on my property or that sidewalk on my property? Because I didn't give you permission to do that.
Sure, and what I'm talking about is like large commercial properties, HOAs, they are responsible to maintain up to your wall. If you have an HOA, if you don't, then that story is different.
Yeah.
That's why I was like, each situation will vary, so we can discuss
This is
your
a very
detail.
old subdivision. I mean,
Sure.
it was done in the 70s, so.
Understood.
You know, but so we're just trying to find out what we're responsible for and what the cities of Glendale's responsible for.
Sure.
Give us a call.
Yeah, we'll take your information later and we can go in detail on that.
Perfect.
Excellent, thank you.
Okay, right over here. Right over here. Yes, ma'am.
So you may have touched on this, and I might have missed it. The time frame of these projects for these areas. They're concepts at this point, correct?
Well, so
And I have another question.
sure. So that concept that you see over here in the kind of that right in the middle, you may not see those same trees being installed. I mean, there may be they may be you know, any number of trees that are on our palette, whether it's a Palo Verde or you know, an oak tree, stuff like that, a live oak, but essentially. They're a little more. I mean, it's a concept in kind of like in the picture. It's a snapshot of what we're trying to accomplish. But it's not going to be maybe exactly look like that. I'm not sure if that answers your question.
Well, would you say it's a sample project at this point before it gets voted in by the city of the council? That's kind of what I'm asking.
Okay.
I think I can answer that. So the plan that we presented to council was a 7-year plan. So over the 7 years, we are going to address the locations that were identified when we presented the plan. And I know over the years, we may add more. So if we give me a second here, in our presentation, we had a slide that talked about so we have the 7 years that projects that we've identified, which is about 35 miles long along the roadways. But we have an additional 550,000 beyond that. We'll use this towards those 35 miles currently. But after those 35 miles are done, we still have that as an ongoing funding source. So we will keep doing the same concept.
So I was leading up to my next question, and that is the current state of these medians, especially 75th Avenue, north and south of Union Hills and along Union Hills, is really, it's in bad shape, and it's been that way for quite a while. It looks very neglected and just left there, and I think my concern would be how soon will this start And is there a plan to actually keep some of what's there and actually maintain it? Because there's tree stumps. It just looks like it was just left.
Yes, so the medians along 75th Union Hills and 67th, first year we are doing the 67th, so the first 3 years we'll do 67th, Union Hills and 75th in some order. I don't remember exactly which order, but I know in the first 3 years, 67th is the immediate first project, but I forget whether it's 75th or Union Hills, but those will be done in the first 3 years. So we'll address them, we'll remove all the tree stumps, we'll plant trees where there's a missing tree, like Javier said. We'll space them about 30 feet. Now there might be locations where we can't plant a tree because it obstructs the view, or there's not enough room for the tree. In those instances, we'll plant shrubs, but we'll make it look aesthetically pleasing, basically. Yes, ma'am.
I have a question about your current budget. So, to the point that was just raised, there are a lot of areas in our area, I live in the Arrowhead area, that are neglected. Either there's a lot of dead things that get cut down and just left as a stump, or die and are not there anymore. So you're spending this money to improve certain areas, which in my opinion is not an improvement, just so you know. What are you going to do going forward with maintenance? Because I've lived here for 30 years. So in the last, I don't know, maybe at least last 10, 15, hasn't been a good job at keeping up with the landscaping that's there. And my concern is you're replacing it with rock, and rock tends to gather trash. If you look at some of the medians near the freeway that are all rock, there's usually always weeds and debris and trash stuck in all those areas. And my concern is you're removing the grass, you're putting in more rock, then all I'm gonna see is more weeds and more garbage in front of my house instead of down by the freeway. So that's kind of my concern.
Sure. Along with the capital project that we are doing, we also have what we've asked council is for additional maintenance monies, so we can do a better job at maintaining. So, and not that you have to do this, but if you notice some areas that that you were concerned about, how many of you here know about the Glendale One app? Okay, so just add them, and we will try to address within a certain time frame. Each request has a certain time frame we try to address. So we try to be as responsive as we can. Yes, ma'am.
One more question. I just want to make sure that you're not removing any existing trees.
No, we are not. If there's a healthy established tree, we are going to keep it, even if it's not a drought-tolerant tree. We are going to leave it in place. Only trees that might be diseased or dead are the only ones we'll remove. And if there's a tree stump or a missing tree, we'll plant a new drought-tolerant tree that would thrive in our environment.
Something that matches what's currently there, though. You're not going to put a Palo Verde in with like a Chinese elm, right? You're not going to put a Palo Verde in with a Chinese elm, as an example.
So there are a number of trees that we can try to match it with. I mean, yeah, yes,
Types,
right.
One is super deserty and one is kind of in between. Maybe drought tolerant, but more of a grassy aesthetic, more leafy.
Yes, so that is the form of art that we're trying to balance, is to maintain the aesthetics and not just plant whatever works, even if it's going to work, but it should aesthetically try to match as much as possible. So the answer to your question is yes. Well, again, there's the G1 app if you want to.
I'm going to start using it. I didn't realize that there was an opportunity there for me to make comments, but I will definitely send something in.
Thank you, ma'am. Appreciate that. Was there a question over here?
On 59th Avenue, north of the 101, on the Legends Golf Course there were some rail or guardrail that was removed. Do you know what that was for, and is that part of your plan?
I don't know. Do you know about that one?
No, I think there was a guardrail that was removed. Guardrails have a purpose. If there's a elevation difference and there's safety concerns, you install guardrails. There might be instances where a guardrail is not needed, and installing it only creates a false sense of safety. And so it might be an instance where if it's been removed, it's because there might not be the difference. Otherwise, if it was removed, I can find out if you give me a specific location. It could also be a maintenance where it got hit and they're trying to replace it. So it could be.
It wasn't hit. It was in front of the golf course there, as it fronts on 59th Avenue. So it was in that space there.
Okay, and it sounds like that might be an instance where maybe a guardrail is not needed, and maybe it was removed. But I can confirm that if you give me a little more information on the location. Thank you.
Any other questions? No, that's why we're here, so keep them coming.
So this plan that we're going to do for the landscaping, is there dates established with areas where this is going to start?
Yes, I'm glad you asked that. I don't have them all memorized, but that's why we have a cheat sheet here. So in the Saguaro, let's see, there might be the same. Okay, no. So in the Saguaro district, 51st Avenue, Cactus to T-Bird, October, December timeframe. Essentially after this meeting. So tomorrow, I'm gonna get started on it if I'm allowed to. Yeah, he's shaking his head, so yes. And then for the Choi district, January through March, because that's gonna require a lot more work. Yes, ma'am.
I'm just curious, so what is the plan for removal of the grass to replace with the granite? How are you removing the grass? What are you putting down, et cetera, et cetera?
Yeah, I don't know the specifics, but it sounds like.
Yeah, while we don't have the specific chemicals that are going to be used, they're going to first do a test spot. Part of originally we were planning to start in October, but because the grass kind of is going to be dormant, we are going to wait until January so that the grass actually shows that it's green, and then we'll do test patches to see that we are only killing the grass and not harming any other trees. So we will do that, and then we know that the grass it's going to look like dried basically once we use the chemical, and then we'll remove the grass and a little bit of the soil and the roots that go with that.
From what I understand as well, you're going from reclaimed water in those areas, you're going to use actual city water now. So you're moving from reclaimed to city. So just as an FYI, I don't bathe or cook or anything with reclaimed water. So you're not giving me back any water.
Yes, in that instance, it's we have a little bit of a challenge with reclaimed water because it clogs up the irrigation system. If you notice, there's a lot of leaks in the system always, and then there's the sprays that are not controllable because there's clogs.
In my neighborhood, I don't notice them so much in the city medians, but
Right.
for sure in my neighborhood.
Right. And we have received calls quite a bit about sprays going on vehicles. And normally, if you have reclaimed water, you can reduce the clogs by using chemicals, but we can't use chemicals because spray goes on vehicles, and we get complaints about that. So normally, we would not want to convert reclaimed to potable water, but in this instance, because of all those challenges, we are going to convert to potable water, but our water usage will be significantly lower because we are going from grass to, mostly drought-tolerant plant material.
I'm just concerned because I moved to Arrowhead for a specific reason, which was the grass and the trees and the area. And you are significantly going to change that with the median changes. So that's kind of my concern. I mean, if I wanted to live in another desert community, I have a lot of options because Arrowhead's kind of unique.
Sure. And if you notice the concept that we are doing, we are actually going with the concept that has artificial turf in areas that does not make it all look like rock. We will have some green.
I understand that. It's just that artificial turf has other issues, right? So artificial turf has other issues. Artificial turf is bad for the environment. You can't dispose of it. You have a problem changing it out or getting rid of it. So that's a whole nother issue. I think that's for another time.
Agreed, we are trying to find a balance. Our preference was not to use artificial turf. In fact, we tried artificial turf for the whole median at the north end by the freeway, and all the trees basically died because of that. So we learned that lesson. So it's just areas where we are not going to impact the trees, where we really couldn't plant a whole lot of vegetation anyway, because if it grew, it'll get into the travel lanes and it creates other issues. So it's kind of a location specific that we are doing where we couldn't really plant anything useful.
Yes, I was concerned about the artificial turf also. There are a number of reasons not to use it. Have you considered just cutting back natural grass so that it meets your water goals, or using more ground cover? I didn't see an example with ground cover in the presentation.
So ground cover we could do instead of the artificial turf. In fact, like I said, our preference was not to use artificial turf, but we got a lot of input about changing the feel of the area, that we are going from complete grass to complete having no grass, which is why we are doing just the narrow parts of it.
Well, clearly the nature of the area is going to change, and we can see changes coming. So we should consider how that's going to change, and I think many of the people that I know reject artificial turf out of hand.
So maybe I can ask this question. At one point I was contemplating asking, do you want with artificial turf or without artificial turf? And then, we heard from quite a few folks. So raise of hands, how many would prefer without artificial turf? And this is not like an official poll, but
Just about every resident that's contacted me was concerned about losing the greenness of Arrowhead, and they wanted the artificial. I mean, overwhelmingly, the people who have contacted me want at least the green approach to the median. The cone, I think, is what you call that part of the median. And that was why, I mean, it wasn't up to me, but I shared that feedback with our transportation staff, and people's concern was losing the effect of the green, which is a characteristic of Arrowhead Ranch, and that's why they went with the artificial turf. So, I mean, literally it was 90+% of the people that contacted me wanted the greenness of the artificial turf.
thank you for the input. Give me 1 second.
So I would be in favor of artificial turf, but not the artificial turf that was installed on 67th Avenue across Ace, because that stuff is as fake as it gets.
Yes.
Probably as cheap as it gets.
Yes, we yeah.
Well, then
I'll,
the money wasn't spent well.
yes, artificial turf for what it is, it's expensive.
That's the kind of stuff that you would put on a putt-putt golf, goofy golf type thing. It doesn't look like grass at all.
Sure, we'll try to get something that actually looks more like grass, if that's. I believe that's what you're trying to say. Yes, thank you.
I would be in favor of it.
Thank you. Any more questions? Would you like to?
Hi, I'm Lauren Tomachoff. If you're a Cholla resident, I'm your city council. I apologize, I had a meeting that ran very late, but I wanted to make sure I made it. So I'll be around for a few minutes after if you want to talk to me. Thanks, Javier.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, no more questions? All right, well, this does not officially conclude our meeting, but I guess we can just mingle and talk, and any specific questions, come talk to me, come talk to Parab. Megan's still back there, so thank you very much.